All right. Um, so we've got a lot to talk about. We need to talk about your white friends. We need to talk about the state of the Black Union. We need to have a conversation, a real conversation wrapped around what is really going on with us. And we need to have a real conversation about why we're still marching, because I was very disappointed to hear Wanda Sykes talk about she's not marching anymore. She's tired of marching. And then she passed the baton to our white counterparts and told them to fix the racism problem in this country. Well, that's a problem. It's a problem because racism has to be defined, and it has to be defined by us. Not only does it have to be defined by us, racism also has to be it has to be defined in a way that it helps people understand the application of it. And that hasn't really been done very well. I think there is now a sentimentality around everyone now, but for how long? Like, how long will this go on? How long are we going to be able to say, um, well, this is racism. This is what it looks like. This is who's doing it. You know, there was a video that someone sent me of a black boy, black man, excuse me, in, I believe, Georgia. And he quit his job. And then quitting his job, he went through and told everybody what he thought about him. And it was basically, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist too. Oh, but you know, you're cool. It was one of those. And then his statement was, I'm racist too. Well, um, that hurts the cause. That hurts the cause because what we are saying is racism has power. And we don't have the power to be racist in a way that it is impactful or significant because we don't control anything. So we have a sprinkling, just a little pepper in all the salt in the Senate. We have more in the House. But when we start talking about effectuating change and what it looks like for racism, then what are we talking about with their efforts in the House and the Senate? We had a black president. When he took office, there was a Democratic House and Senate. They're still shooting us in the street, and the federal government gave all police agencies a stipend, money so they could buy the cameras that they don't turn on. You know, David Mcatee died as a protester. He was the barbecue man there in Louisville, Kentucky, and he was shot and killed by a police officer. Well, the same thing. He didn't have on his body camera. The police officer didn't have on his body camera. So we don't really know what happened. And so then, of course, it turns to the police officer's account. And that, too, is a form of racism. So when we start talking about racism and whose responsibility it is, well, it may not be our fault, but it's damn sure our problem. And how dare any Black person decide they're not going to be participatory and they're not going to participate. And Wanda Sykes ought to know better than anybody, because she's been on the front lines of LGBTQ rights, that you cannot decide you're not going to play in the game. You suited up by the virtue of the color of your skin. So you have to play, because you've got other people that are out there exhausting themselves so that your team gets the win. And please believe, when the team gets the win, even the bench players get a ring. So we can't afford for Wanda Sykes and the like to say they're not going to participate. That hurts the cause. That's a problem. And we can't afford that. We can't afford for people like Shannon Sharpe. Let me say this about Shannon Sharpe. This is an aside, because this is kind of personal. So I need to share that with you. I need to share the fact with you that Shannon Sharpe was walking on the street during the 2004 Super Bowl. And we were riding in an SUV. It was like one of those first models of the Mercedes SUV, the MLs. Remember, it used to have the big old sunroof. And so me and two of my girlfriends were standing up and watching all the people go by. And we saw Shannon Sharpe. We were like, oh, Shannon Sharpe. I used to like Shannon Sharpe. And we were like, Shannon Sharpe, Shannon Sharpe. And we were waving like crazy people. And he turns around and he looks at us, and we're all still in our 20s. So we all still real cute. And he looks at us and he rolls his eyes as he looks away from us and grabs the white girl's hand and pulls her kind of up the way. And really, he should have just let them walk. I mean, it was obvious they were together, but I guess he was trying to demonstrate something to us. But she was so poor and skinny, she looked like she was about to fall apart. And when he took those extra 5 steps, she stumbled and flip-flopped all over the place. And we roared with laughter. And I just think it's very odd that Shannon Sharpe, who does not date Black women, is on this Drew Brees, you're so wrong Black thing. You know, white friends are now coming to us, talking to us about how they feel and wanting to have this conversation. That's looking for inclusion and absolution simultaneously, and they're asking you to give it to them. This is Coy with your black tea sip. You melanated minds, you Black beautiful babies. We're going to get into it today. I'll be back in just a minute. This is Coy. You got it? All right. We had some tech stuff that my son was trying to help me with. So now let's talk about this. Let's talk about the fact that there are so many Black people now that are saying their white friends are contacting them and saying, I get it now. I understand. I appreciate what you're saying. You know, the fact that I talk about that we bear this Black tax and that this sun-kissed skin can be a blessing and a curse. You know, we say sun-kissed by God's lips because we are from the original continent, the continent that created what we now know as civilization. It is the continent where all people come from when we talk about mitochondria of Eve. That had so many daughters that it was able to continue civilization. That is what we're talking about when we say sun kissed by God's lips. But it's also a curse because there is a certain amount of fear wrapped up in this sun kissed skin that creates people to terrorize us. And we are now having to bear the burden of terror because they wanted tyranny. They wanted to control and to tell people what to do. And they wanted to talk about 1614, us being settled in Jamestown. No, because Olada Equano talks about being rescued by a Spanish ship in the 1400s. And we know that in the 1500s, a man accidentally came to shore and was forcibly settled. That is why Christopher Columbus thought he was in India, because he did not know where he was. And so he called the Native Americans that looked like you and I, called them Indians. It is because we laid the foundation. You know, running of the bulls is really bad. And I had somebody say this to me, they said, all bulls are black. No, I live in Texas. All bulls are not black. Bulls have white bulls, they have black bulls, they have brown bulls. I mean, they come in different colors. Probably not pink, red, and blue, but they do come in other colors. You know, but running of the bulls is a celebration of running the Moors out of Spain, because they were royalty, kings and queens, and they ruled Spain for 800 years. The running of the bull is running the Moors out of Spain. There is so much wrapped up in history of how people are celebrating our demise. But because we are not students of history, because history is boring, because it's too much reading, how can the people who created literature and an understanding and application of language not want to read? How can the same people that created Timbuktu, where all people study, that's where we get university from. I feel like I need to do just a little bit of history lesson with y'all today. I feel like I need to say some things to you to help you understand why we are in the state that we are in. Because some of the finger pointing, and I know I'm going to lose some friendships with this, is not all at our counterparts. Because the reason I had a problem with Wanda Sykes' statement is because of people that do not know their history are destined to repeat it. We are still marching. So the people who created Timbuktu in Africa on the continent, the reason the word university is the word that we use now, and it's 4 years to graduate, 4 to 6, depending on how you get down. 4 years for university, because the word university was the translation of the word that was used for all knowledge and understanding in Timbuktu. We go 4 years. They went 40 before they were believed to be educated enough to go back to their respective places, their origins of nationality, and then teach. How can we not want to know history? We are still marching in the street because we have forgotten the blueprint that was laid out for us by Martin Luther King. We are now on some Malcolm X type stuff, by any means necessary, and they're talking about the looting and the firebombing and all of that, and we say, oh, wait a minute, that's not us. It's not all of us, is the more appropriate statement. It was us. And I'm going to talk about that too, but it was us. But the truth of the matter is that we have been here before with the Watts riots, and we keep marching, and they keep killing us. And it's primarily because we don't have a universal plan. I'm not going to spend a long time talking to y'all about what's not right. I'm going to talk to y'all about what we need to do. I know that I'm probably going to lose some friendships because I'm going to do some finger pointing because I tell the truth. These protests that are going on right now, they're not tied to anything. The blueprint that actually effectuated the Civil Rights Act of 1963 and 1965, there was a plan. And that plan was executed and aided by protests, by sit-ins, by civil unrest. I live in Dallas, Texas. Dominique Alexander, the founder of Next Generation Action Network, I consider a friend. He's a young man, 31 years old. He's young, he's zealous, he's exuberant. Now, he has his own rendition of how they got caught on this bridge, and he doesn't tell anybody where he goes on the bridge. And y'all saw it made national news that these people, 674 people, were on this bridge and they had broken the curfew. Now, I like Dominique and I believe in what he's doing, but I don't believe in giving people the ammunition to fight you. I don't believe in that. I believe that you do it right. So when they come for you, then those people who want to stand up for what's right will have the ability to stand up for you and with you. That is what I believe. I believe that it is not only necessary, but it impedes upon our progress when we don't lay out our demands. On change.org right now, there are 100 petitions. Change never comes through petitions. You need policy. And these protests need to be tied to policy. You want them to stop killing us. You don't want their knee on our neck. Then more people should have been supporting State Representative Lorraine Barrable because she says it's a say something. She wants that enacted into law in the state of Texas for every policing agency so that you don't get to just acquiesce and say, well, I was following his lead. You don't get to do that. It's not appropriate. It's not allowed. But we need policy and legislation. Now, we are not going to get any real legislation with the orangutan wearing the 3 green circles from the Oval Office because he's not going to read anything you put before him. But what needs to happen is the civil unrest needs to hit them in their pockets. The protesters in Ferguson, after Michael Brown died, got it right. Now, they did not get what they wanted, but they got the process right. And you say, well, how to get the process right? And they didn't get what they wanted. Well, I'm going to tell you. When they, Black Friday, when everybody, Thanksgiving, and then Friday, when everybody goes to shop on Michigan Avenue, the people with the money, supposedly, they blocked all the stores. They blocked the stores. They created civil unrest inside the stores, and it made them uncomfortable. People didn't want to shop. They were angry that they couldn't shop, but they didn't want to test the waters. Right now, we're talking about July 7th, and we're talking about blackout and not shopping. I've already talked to y'all about that. I've already told you how I don't know that that's going to get the outcome that you want. You want significant impact. So then we said, you know what? On that day, let's just shop Black owned. Okay, I'm with that. But when we start talking about Black owned and we're talking about grocery stores and gas, now how do we resolve that? Because that means on the 6th or the 8th, people are going to need gas. They're going to need milk and bread. I mean, how do we combat that part? If you really want to demonstrate that you're not going to have it anymore, then we need a collective universal process. And right now we have a hodgepodge process. There is protesting going on all over the United States. All over the world. They were protesting in Dublin, Ireland, Paris, France, Berlin, Germany, New Zealand. All over the world, people are protesting. But what are the demands? Change.org has these petitions. I read some of the petitions. Many of them want an apology. I don't want an apology. I don't want an apology unless it is monetized. I don't want an apology unless they are giving me a check. Reparations. That is what I want. I do not want someone to come and tell me I'm so sorry for the way that my forefathers treated you. Forefathers? You mean your neighbor? Your cousin? Drew Brees is on the hot seat now because what he is learning about the great city of New Orleans, Louisiana, is that their blackness, because blackness is a state of mind. It's not necessarily the color of your skin. Because look at Candace Owens. She's Black, but it's something else going on up here. So it is a state of mind. And in New Orleans, what he's now realizing is white folks don't play that. I mean, Black folks don't play that. They don't play with white folks like the rest of us do in other parts of the nation. They don't play that. Um, it is not only taboo in New Orleans growing up for Black men to date white women. It was not only taboo, it was hushed if it was done to the point where nobody bragged about it. Because they understood very clearly about the separation of not just color, white and black, but classism. And that is what we are really talking about. We are talking about classism. We are talking about the fact that people are the haves and the have-nots, and many of our white counterparts that have not demonstrate the way they feel about us by terrorizing us and brutalizing us so that they can feel more included in the have part. This is about a mentality that was born and continues in England, that transferred over with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. They started this country because they could not be part of the haves in Europe. So they moved here. And then in order for them to feel better and superior, they enslaved us. We were enslaved, not just in the South. That's a lie. I want y'all to stop saying that. We were enslaved in the South, and we were mistreated and enslaved in the North. Textiles in the North, agriculture and stuff. I think it's a young woman that's going around now. I was surprised that she had less than 600 views the other day when she broke it down. When we started talking about looting, and I made the comment last week, I likened it to what Tupac said many, many years ago when he talked about us knocking on the door saying, I'm hungry. We are hungry, but we're hungry for the acknowledgement of our humanity. We are hungry for equity, not equality. We're hungry for equity. So let me tell y'all what the difference is. Let's talk about the difference. The difference between equality and equity is that equity is tangible and monetized. It is a monetary value that is associated with equity. Equality is subjective. So when we fought for equality and they wanted to desegregate the schools, and we finally got the ability to attend the schools, we could attend the schools. There was equality that we asked for, and then they mistreated us. They had to have the National Guards walking our children into the school. And then we graduated, and then we went on to colleges, and we started to live this life that we thought was equal, at least in part. But the difference is that equity is what they designed for you. So, I mean, equality is what they designed for you. This is what I mean. In the Appalachian Mountains, the white folks don't have no teeth. They're dirt poor and dumb as shit. I normally don't cuss on this show, but I'm really ticked off and I'm trying to be cool. Now, there are some people that feel like, well, that's how they're living, so you ought to be all right. Because there is some equality in that, the projects, poor performing schools for Black folks. Well, you got poor white folks and their schools are not great. So there's some equality there. You need to define what you think equality is. And we're not doing that in these protests. We're just out here marching and singing, getting mad. But we're not necessarily getting our point across to the point of application and adoption. If equality is for you to be able to live in a particular neighborhood, then you have laws wrapped around redlining, and the Department of Justice is looking at loans and how they distribute loans between Black and white and Hispanic and Asian. Well, then the equality is that sometimes the Asians don't qualify. Sometimes the Hispanics don't qualify. But what they're looking at is the disparity in the equity. Equity is monetized. When you buy a house and you live in that house, and let's just say round numbers, the house is $150,000, and you pay 50% of that house off, and you have $75,000 balance on your house that is still owed. You then have a $75,000 equity in that home. We should be protesting for equity, not equality. They've been giving us equality, their version of it, because that is still us asking them to give us something. We are still requesting, and I'm tired. I'm tired of the request. I'm tired of us asking for permission. But I'm also tired of the stupidity that's wrapped around this thing. I'm tired of the ridiculousness of it all. I'm tired of the fact that I posted about Lorraine. I'm talking about Lorraine because her race is coming up. I believe election day is like July 14th if you're in District 100 in Dallas, Texas. And she has a bill that I mentioned before, See Something, Say Something, where police officers don't get to just acquiesce about whether or not they're going to intervene and when they see someone being brutalized by a cop. It would make it a responsibility. Well, Chief Hall in Dallas, Texas actually had policy to say, it's not okay for you not to intervene. You must intervene. Well, somebody asked me, why is that necessary? I mean, why would you need a policy to tell somebody to do the right thing? Because of the blue wall. That's why Lorraine has this bill. Because the fact of the matter is that Chauvin, the day he killed George Floyd, was teaching two of the other police officers that have been now indicted and are going to face trial in Superior Court in Georgia. They have been on the job less than 1 week. Now, you would think that would shock the consciousness of someone. You would think that they would have sense enough to know, wait a minute, this man say he can't breathe. Wait a minute, are you sure? Are you sure? Wait a minute, hold up. You would think that some of that would be going on. But the truth is that the blue wall of silence doesn't necessarily allow for that. Because then they are ostracized, terrorized, and mistreated by their fellow cops because they have outed and potentially ousted another cop. So they say nothing. I am annoyed beyond measure at the fact that we are not specifically trying to get behind this bill in the state of Texas. I am irritated with Black folk who sit on the sidelines, ride the bench, never put their helmet on, have sparse knee pads on, and are critical of those people that are actually in the fight and in the struggle. I am sick of people who come up with a problem and never offer a solution. I'm probably not going to get a lot of likes and shares on this one because I'm pissed. I'm pissed off at the fact that I posted it in a group, and I don't even remember what group it is. And I was just saying, she's asking for Black men to come in their Sunday best and offer a different optic. Because at the time, in her heart and in her mind, they kept talking about Black people participatory in looting. Now, there were some outlets and there were some people that were actually talking about the fact that they weren't all looting and that many people were from white supremacist groups, which I talked about, and then they said they were from Antifa. Well, some Black folks were looting, but that's not the point. The point of the matter is that we are stuck in a situation where we don't even know what to do. And when we see somebody Black that's actually trying to do something, we're critical of. Talking about Sunday best. We shouldn't be asking for permission. But the person that's typing that doesn't protest, doesn't march, doesn't write policy. They just talk. You want to know why I'm pissed off? I'm pissed off because there are Black people out here that are not helping the cause at all. But y'all waiting on somebody else to do it. And now Wanda Sykes and those like her are saying white folks need to do something. Do what? They don't know what to do. The truth of the matter is that we need to be smarter. And I don't understand why we're not using the blueprint that's already proven to be valuable, impactful, and effective. You lay out a plan, you lay out your demands, you lay out your request of what you want, and then you protest, then you march, then you have sit-ins, and you certainly do not give them ammunition to fight you. Where out of the 674 people that were on that Margaret Hunt bridge, they had 84 that were arrested. Chief Howell lied. They said that they were going to release everyone, but they already had people going to jail. We saw, if you watch Smash the Topics, you saw where Smash and Dominique ended up going to jail. We saw a young woman that had just gotten out 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She said they handled her real rough. We saw them. They said, well, it's not tear gas, it's gas. We know that now that there was one person on that bridge that had coronavirus. 285 cases in Dallas, 19,000 this week, around the United States, new cases. Just from protesting. What are you asking for? Everybody they interviewed said, I'm tired. We all tired. I'm exhausted. We are all tired. I talked to y'all about how Jason Robo, who is chairman of the Community Police Oversight Review Board, has not been able to enact his committee. So, yeah, we're tired. We're all tired. What in the hell are we going to do about it? You know, I don't understand how we can be so passionate about something and not have a plan of how we're going to get our requests made. Okay, so Chief Howell has now, and I'm sure that there will be others that will follow, say that, you know what, you have to intervene. You can't just sit on the sidelines. But what does that mean when they say you have to intervene? Does that policy say that you will be under internal affairs review, that you will be on administrative leave without pay? Does that mean that you will now be considered to be brought up on charge? It's a policy. So what does that mean? It doesn't have any legislative teeth to it. Are they going to hold these cases when they don't intervene over to the district attorney? What exactly does the policy mean? It means you'll be under police review? Is it a ding or some kind of demotion associated with what? They just keep throwing us this stuff. They keep giving you this equality, their version of it, because equality is subjective. It is whatever someone's idea of it is. It is not what it actually is. It is unfortunate that we are in this state. It is unfortunate that we are finding ourselves stomping and marching again. But the truth of the matter is, we have a responsibility that we cannot turn over to white people and say, fix this problem for us. And I'd be damned if a Wanda Sykes is going to get away with saying that. I am pissed because we have a responsibility, one to another. So you know what? I'm not going to just talk about it. I'm going to be about it. I'm not going to just keep ranting and raving with you all. So I did contact my sorority sister, someone that I had the great opportunity and privilege to write policy with before. She said the morning that I contacted her, she was just about to reach out to the committee. Because we need policy with these protests. You want a blackout day? You want civil unrest? You want to show your anger? You want to demonstrate your passion? Hit them in the pockets. You know, if it's Michigan Mile, line up on Michigan Mile and don't let them shop again on the same day that we're at the Galleria in Dallas, the same day they're at the Galleria in Houston, on the same day that they are in Paris, stopping them. That same day is how we get this done. Not these hodgepodges of protests around the world where it's nothing that we have said. So yes, we are going to write policy for Dallas. The last time we sat down and wrote policy for Dallas over a period of 18 to almost 24 months, because it's a commitment to get this job done. We changed the way Dallas would look at payday loans. Now, Dallas didn't do what we wanted them to do. And Casey Thomas, who is a sitting councilman now for District 5, was the councilman with our committee. Here is the thing. We wrote policy to attack the predatory practices of payday loans. I don't know if you all are aware, and this is part of racism, because I really want to define it, outline it, highlight it, and illuminate it to where you can put it in specific categories of how it affects Black people. I'm angry this morning because the payday loan structure can be as much as 400%. Oftentimes, 3 to 5 months you paid that loan off, principal wise. But because it's 400% interest, you would spend another 15 years paying $500 off. What they do in the state of Texas is they make you write X amount of checks, predated checks. That is illegal in the state of Texas because that check serves as a promissory note. And in the state of Texas, a promissory note is illegal. You cannot promise to pay because there should be a criteria and a metric for you to determine your payment, your credit worthiness. That's why during the real estate boom and these subprime loans, these banks got in trouble and Lehman Brothers went under, and all these people that were supposedly, banks rather, but I'm saying people as far as CEOs, were too big to fail, is because they should have been looking at credit worthiness. And Black people, another instance of racism, was paying more when they were better suited to pay back the loan than their white counterparts. So that is an example of racism. Now we're fighting police brutality right now, but the payday loan structure is another way to keep you broke, embattled in poverty, and stuck. Then we look at the criminal element of it. Once you don't make that payment, then they defer your case over to the district attorney. And then the district attorney then prosecutes you for theft by check. In Dallas County, the reason John Crusoe said that he was no longer going to prosecute checks, I think it was $250 or $500 or less, theft by check. And the police officer said, oh, no, that's a problem. No, it's not. He was stopping the payday loans because in Dallas County, these payday loan companies were using the district attorney's office as their personal collection agency. And her grandmother went to jail for almost 2 weeks before they could get her out, and she was arrested at her child's school. The only reason she took out the payday loan was to buy uniforms. You think that that's not racism keeping you impoverished? Now she's in the criminal justice system. Those kids ended up in foster care. This is a cycle. That's not just about police brutality. It's not just about fairness. It's not about justice in the court system. This is about equity. And that is the buzzword for today, boys and girls. We should be talking about equity. We should be talking about the fact that we do not get the monetized value for our lives that other people get. When I start talking about reparations, when I start talking about a check, when I start talking about a monetized apology, people turn a deaf ear. Because President Obama said that the country could not afford to do that for us. We have $3.9 trillion that we pay annually into the annual GDP of this country. Well, just give us our money back. Just give it back to us. Give it back to us because every other race that says they've been wronged by this country has received money. A monetized apology. The reason that certain tribes in this, Native American tribes in this country are able to set up casinos and have sovereign land is that is part of their reparation package. Japanese Americans were given $20,000 per person who proved who had direct lineage to the people that in their ancestry who had been mistreated by the United States. Chinese Americans, Native Americans, Jewish Americans. In fact, the United States helped Jews get payment from Germany, and they still get payments to this day. So don't start telling me about what we cannot do. One of our requests should be reparations. I know right now we're in an election cycle. I understand that we are all pushing for Joe Biden to pick a Black woman VP. Fine. None of those people are talking about reparations. I haven't vetted Val Demings completely. I like her. She's former law enforcement. Her husband is the mayor of Orange County. But I don't know that she has moved. I certainly haven't heard of a bill that she's introduced that specifically talks about us getting a check. With all that Kamala did on the debate stage, I don't remember her talking about getting us a check. Now, maybe she did, and y'all will check me because, y'all good at that. But I don't remember her talking about getting a check. If you want equity, then you have to have the value associated with it. There should be some equity in these protests. There should be a value associated with the risk. Kids are going out here like them. I'm a protester. Y'all seen me. I'm a protester. I remember protesting at Hillcrest High School in, I believe, 1988, because a white girl wrote a very incendiary article in the high school newspaper, and we protested. They said that we were going to have riots, and they had the police out there in lightweight riot gear. I remember that. But here's the racist part of it. It should not have been published. You have an editor, and you also have a teacher that is kind of the liaison, if you will, for any particular organization or club, and certainly the newspaper at any school. Why was it allowed to be published? See, this is racism. Drew Brees made a statement about the flag. Now, Shannon Sharp said some good things. See, even though I feel some kind of way about it. But, I told y'all earlier, it's personal. Shannon Sharp said that that Drew Brees was in battle every week with his black brothers, and he didn't understand racism. Drew Brees grew up here in North Texas and went to Westlake High School. It is lily white bread bubble. I don't know if there are any black people there now, let alone then. I'm sure it's a sprinkle, because we always want to be where they are. We always have some of those candidates on. And so he made the statement about the flag, and he talked about his grandfather fighting for the flag. What in the hell has the flag got to do with a knee on George Floyd's neck? You don't want Colin Kaepernick to take a knee, but what? So Chauvin can put his knee on George Floyd's neck. But what I find to be so telling about white peopling is the fact that he would bring up the flag and kneeling. Kaepernick hasn't knelt on y'all stadium during the anthem in how many years? Why not talk about this man snuffing out this black man's life, George Floyd, to the fact that it impacted the world? His 6-year-old daughter said, "My daddy changed the world." How about not having a conversation about that? You know why Drew Brees don't want to have a conversation about that? Because he's a racist. I told y'all last week that there are levels and degrees to racism. He's a racist. Is he tolerable of black people? Yes. Is he cool with some black people that he knows? Yes. Is he better suited for the black people that he can command as the quarterback? Absolutely. Is he just going to be cool with all the black people he comes in contact with? No. Is he going to be tolerable? Perhaps, because of his profession. But see, he said exactly what he meant. And I don't even know why we're talking about it. Me included. He said exactly what he meant. Because they have tied the flag. My grandmother said something. I know I'm not supposed to say this out loud, but my grandmama been gone since I was 10 years old, so God bless the dead. But she poured a lot into me in those 10 years. My grandmother said, most, not all, most white people are the most gullible people on the planet. I know it's going to get me in trouble. I know it is, but my grandmama said that to me. And I didn't understand it. And this is what I mean by that. When was taking a knee disrespectful to the flag? Only when a black man did it. It was not disrespectful when Tim Tebow did it. Y'all don't remember Tim Tebow taking a knee against abortion? That's when it was disrespectful. That's racism. It was disrespectful because a black man said he wasn't going to stand up for this white man's flag. Well, the flag has never been representational of us. And when I had that conversation with my mother, who was 80, she was talking about so many black men had fought and died for that flag. So many black women had carried the burden for the black men to fight and die. And now black women are fighting and dying for that flag. They're standing on the wall saying nothing's going to hurt you tonight because I'm standing here. And she felt like we should stand. Okay, I get it. So I stand because that red in there that's supposed to signify blood, that's our blood too. The problem is that same flag, they would wrap themselves in when they would lynch us. That same flag is the flag that they put next to the Confederate flag when they terrorize us. So it's hard for us to see this flag and know just the way they do. Because see, we've entered into a contract with this country. And a contract is just this simple. A contract is offer and acceptance. Although the rule of law says that the contract cannot be so one-sided that it only benefits one person. Because then that contract is null and void. Because it's really not a value of offer and acceptance. You've made the offer, but me accepting it provides me no benefit. So the law will not uphold those kinds of contracts, but it will uphold that kind of contract against us. They broke the contract. You won't know. I'm going to use this little girl's words on, because they didn't give her name. It's on social media. She said, y'all broke the contract. Because for 400 years, we've been trying to do it right. Another 50 years, we've been pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and attempting to participate. Because when we did it the right way with Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, y'all murdered us. When we did it the right way in Rosewood, Florida, you murdered us. You took away our peacefulness, our ability to rely on one another, and you put us in certain situations. You put us in tenements. You put us in projects. You put us one on top of another. And then if I hear another black person say to me, black on black crime, I just might throw up. You cannot blame people for trying to exist with what they've been given when they haven't been able to see anything else. We cannot continue to be so hypercritical and uber judgmental of one another. We cannot come together and work collectively. I'm upset this morning because I'm tired of the fact that I've got to fight whitey and then I have to fight mighty against my own. You know, that old adage, if you don't have nothing nice to say, shut the fuck up, applies here in this day, in this state of our Black Union. You know, the idea that there's something wrong with protesting is already being purported and perpetuated through propaganda by those who don't look like us. Why do you need to help them? Megan McCain, that's on the View, literally tweeted that she lives in whatever place in New York and her neighborhood is all torn up and blah, blah, blah. You know, that's a dog whistle tweet. That is to suggest that Black people should not be protesting. That's really what she meant. That's not what she said, but that's what she meant. Until another white woman who is conscious said, Megan, I live in the same neighborhood you do and nothing's wrong with our neighborhood. In other words, stop lying. Stop lying to purport propaganda. But that's what happens with our white counterparts. And see, Megan doesn't consider herself a racist, because she would think that Whoopi and Sonny are her friends. I doubt very seriously if they consider the same. But, you know, we start talking about what we need to do and how white people need to help us. Well, white people helped us with the Civil Rights Act, 1963, 1965. There was still work to do, and I feel like the ball was dropped. Generation before mine and then my generation, the ball was dropped. Because in those Civil Rights Acts, There is legislation that suggests that Congress every 50 years has to go back and vote for whether or not we can continue to vote as Black people. So we dropped the ball, but now we picked up the ball and we're running. We're running. We're getting yardage. We're running. We shirking. We out here on this field breaking ankles. And it seems like the goalpost keeps backing up from us. Well, it may be because we don't know what to ask for. And the people that are doing the asking are not necessarily on our side. It may be that we're having the problem that we're having because we keep dropping the ball. It might be because we keep suggesting that we do it another kind of way without actually implementing anything. We got too many people that are suited up by virtue of the color of their skin that never really want to get in the game. This is going to take everybody. And it is going to take your white friends. So let's talk about white people right now, how they want to identify with us. They are looking for absolution. Don't give it. All white people not bad, all Black people not good. Don't give them absolution. When my man was playing golf, and the white guy little young white guy that he's talked to before, they played together before, came up and started talking to him about he's wearing his Kaepernick jersey all week. Okay, baby, you wear your Kaepernick jersey. And then he was saying he gets it now. And now was the word that stuck out to me. So what you're saying is you didn't get it with Tatiana Jefferson. You didn't get it with Tamir Rice. You didn't get it with Trayvon. Trayvon was killed not by a police officer, a citizen. You didn't get it with Breonna Taylor. You didn't get it with Botham Jean. You didn't get it with Sandra Bland. You didn't get it. You get it now with Floyd. You didn't get it with Breonna Taylor. You didn't get it with Eric Garner. But you get it now. You don't know the story of Mcatee, but you get it now. You don't know that Martin Luther King was assassinated, but you get it now. Okay. You get it now. All right. But you're showing that you get it by wearing your Kaepernick jersey. It is an article of clothing. Have you picked up the phone and called your police department and said, what are the policing policies for this policing agency if one person is brutalizing a person of color? That is how you demonstrate that you get it, not by a Kaepernick jersey. So when I say they're looking for absolution, they're also looking for inclusion. They want to be included in the conversation, but only enough for them to tell you that they get it. That ain't gonna work. That's not going to get it. We need policies and legislation, and that is what we need our white brothers and sisters to do. We need you on the front line of legislative change. That is what we need. We need for someone to step to the plate in Congress and reach across the aisle to their brother or their sister in the Senate and say, we need a collective bill between the House and the Senate that cannot be vetoed. We need white folks calling the Department of Justice saying, we need to know why when a police officer kills a Black person that is unarmed, that is not immediately considered a hate crime and remanded for federal court. That is what we need. I certainly don't need you walking around here in a Kaepernick jersey. Who cares? We also need Black people to start telling them. So we're not getting that either. We're just getting a lot of rhetoric, a lot of conversations wrapped around the how comes and the why to's. but not really effective change because we are not doing it right. Now, I started out by telling you about We Are Writing policy. You can inbox me if you want to be included in this public policy committee. I don't know what Minister Danielle Ayers' requirements are going to be to add new people, but we certainly want fresh voices. So at the very least, you can tell me what you think. You can inbox me on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. I don't know about Periscope. I don't really understand how to work Periscope, but whatever you can do, you can always reach out to me, Black T Sip, on Instagram, and give me your ideas about what you think you want. Let me tell you what I want from a policy standpoint. I don't want no apology. I don't want nobody standing up telling me they're sorry unless they put a check in my hand. I want you, because all I know that people understand is money. So apology is veiled and it means nothing. But if you apologize and you got to write a check, your understanding becomes 100% better. But this is what I would like. I would like for policing agencies in the United States to, one, automatically remand any case to internal affairs in which it is shown on camera that an unarmed Black person was beaten, brutalized, terrorized, and or killed. Immediately action for internal affairs and immediately goes to the district attorney. That's what I want. I want for every policing agency, if there is more than one cop involved and they do not intervene, I want them on immediate administrative leave without pay until the conclusion of the investigation, and that too is remanded over to the district attorney for review. You don't get paid. I want, and I mean this very significantly, and I probably should have made this 1A. I want us as citizens to be able to pick who is representing the police association. I want citizens to be able to pick that. In Dallas, we have the, and I mess this up every time because I'm so stuck with, but it's the Community Police Oversight Review Board that is led by J.Swar Robo. He is the chairman, a brother and a friend, an activist, a protester, an alpha, and a man who understands policy. I want that review board to allow citizens to come in. Those names ought to go up for who's going to represent the police association. You want to know why? Because police associations all over the United States have more power than the police agency itself. Whoever's president of the police agency has more power than whoever is police chief. And so if they are not together in concert, the police agency is going to win because it is a union with a lot of money. Now in Dallas, you have the Black Police Association. They don't have the same power. Therefore, they don't have the same rights and privileges, and they don't have the same money. And many of them are completely on board with what we're asking. Not all, because we just saw in Atlanta where 2 police officers terrorized those kids, college students. Now, because Keisha Lance Bottoms is the mayor, and the mayor is over the police chief and over the police department, she had them fired immediately. No, you do not get to pick up $200. You don't pass go. You go home. That's how it should be. You should be on administrative leave and not paid. Why are we paying these people after we've seen them brutalize someone?